Hello and welcome to the WGG How To video, Rugs to the Rescue. In this activity, learners will construct, test, and compare two shoe designs. This activity provides learners the opportunity to take on the role of a fashion and apparel engineer. This is a growing field where the fashion industry uses technology and engineering skills to produce consistency in product quality, prices, and services. The design of clothes and accessories requires knowledge and skills about materials, an ability to draw, a sense of symmetry, a sense of aesthetics, and creativity. This discipline is truly a fusion of art and engineering. The STEM big idea for this activity is test and evaluate design. Learners engage in the engineering design process when they design a prototype of a specific shoe design. They'll then have the opportunity to test and evaluate that design and compare it to a new design that they create toward the end of the activity. The materials required for the shoe design activity include a yoga mat, webbing, fabric, cardstock, duct tape of various colors, chalk, masking tape, markers, and scissors. Before the kids walk in, you want to make sure that you have familiarized yourself with the design challenge. You have all your materials that you need ready to go. You've read the facilitator guide as it contains many important details for this activity, and you've set the activity up so that when the learners come in, they can begin to have fun. There are several ways to get the kids excited about this fun hands-on activity. Perhaps you could set the stage with a plane crash scenario. Remember, this is a crash landing and everyone survives, but you are limited to materials that come from seat belts, aircrafts, emergency kits, and other things that might be found on a plane. After learners have the opportunity to understand the scenario, engage them in a brainstorm session. Ask, how can we use these materials to design a shoe? To provide some structure and support for learners at the start of the conversation, pose a sentence structure such as, the material from blank can be used to blank. For example, the material from the aircraft seats can be used as fabric for the top of a shoe. Give kids a couple of minutes to talk with a partner or a small group like a trio, and then share back with the rest of the group before moving on to the activity. Now, let's check out some highlights for this activity. As always, when learners log into the WGG environment, they will view a set of steps for this activity. Next, learners will encounter the introductory page, which provides background for this activity and presents the design challenge. Learners will evaluate their designs based on the following criteria. Learners will conduct a series of tests. For example, can you run in those shoes for 50 feet without them falling off? Can you walk backwards with little to no flopping? Can you walk up and down a staircase and keep your shoe on? If you wet the shoe, does it disintegrate or stay intact for the entire 50 feet? And if you take your shoes off your feet, do they feel sticky or do they slide off easily like a well-designed and constructed shoe? Next, learners build the prototype of the prosthetic model. Here are a few tips to get you started. To start, one learner will place their foot on a yoga mat. Another learner will use chalk to trace the outline of the foot. Be sure to trace 2 chalk outlines of the same foot. Use scissors to create cutouts of the foot on the yoga mat. The yoga mat will be used as the sole of the foot as well as the inner cushion. Next, we want to use cardstock to create stability. Again, have one learner trace the outline of the foot of another learner using a marker this time. Be sure to use the same foot for both the yoga mat outline and the cardstock outline. Using scissors, you want to create 3 cutouts of the cardstock footprint. Assemble these cutouts in a sandwich-like manner. Yoga mat, cardstock, 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 yoga mat. For assembly, use masking tape to baste or temporarily hold together the shoe sandwich. Then use duct tape of any color to begin to wrap the shoe. Start at the middle and wrap until you come to the points in which you need to then wrap the duct tape in a curved-like fashion. This happens at the heel and the toe portion of the shoe. The duct tape should be attached to one surface, and before folding over to stick to the other surface, cut the tape into little strips along the length so that the strips can be crisscrossed as needed to make a smooth attachment on the other side. To create the upper part of the shoe, take a square piece of fabric and cover the front portion of the foot. Then use chalk to create an outline of the foot that is 2 to 3 inches larger. Next, use scissors to cut out the outline. Then apply duct tape to the back of the fabric. This gives the foot cover additional strength. Next, we want to fit the upper shoe to the sole. After the learner places their foot on the sole of the shoe, then they want to place the upper shoe fabric on top of their foot. Again, they're using masking tape to baste or temporarily hold the fabric in place as they gather their measurements. Using chalk, they'll outline where the upper shoe meets the sole of the shoe. After they trim the upper portion of the shoe to the right size, they will then adhere the upper portion of the shoe to the sole using masking tape to baste or temporarily hold them together. Next, learners will measure and then cut a strip of fabric to go around the ankle in order to create the ankle support. Again, to create stability, learners will apply duct tape to the back of the fabric. Using masking tape, the learner will attach the ankle support to the rest of the shoe. And finally, learners will secure the perimeter of the shoe using duct tape of any color. Now it's time to test and evaluate their designs. After learners construct the prototype of their shoe design, they now need to log back into the WGG learning environment to test and evaluate their design. During this step, learners will enter a rating for each of the criterion provided. They will also reflect on their design and plan for the redesign of their next shoe prototype. Be sure to plan for time to allow learners to redesign their shoes, and afterwards they can return to the WGG learning environment to reflect and compare their first and second shoe design. Finally, we have a few facilitator tips where the gotchas can get you. Mainly, we have a few manufacturing tips. First, fit. Tack, or what I've been calling baste, using masking tape. This helps get the materials in place before permanently applying the duct tape. Also, as they say, measure twice, cut once. Chalk twice, cut once to make sure you have the right measurements so that those seams can fit securely in place. Quality matters. Very sticky tape and very sharp scissors make the construction process easier. Also, remind learners about the testing criteria during the manufacturing process. For example, when you're walking around to the various groups, say, hey, do you think that shoe design will be wonderful for running backwards? What if your shoe gets wet? Pose some questions to have them continuously think about the criteria that they're designing against. And finally, teamwork makes the dream work. You saw that it takes multiple hands and feet to construct these WuGGs, so please encourage each learner to work together. Have fun as you engineer a learning environment that supports learners at your club.